This is page 10 from Love's Wanting, a book about contemplation by Kerrie Hide. So I'm going to read some. This is a part of the introduction. And there's different authors throughout the book. There's 3 parts in this book, and part 1 is beholding in wanting. Is called. That's the title of part 1. Part 2 is suffering in wanting. Sure, that's going to be a treat. And part 3, communing in wanting. And there's 3. Part 1 contains 3 chapters. The third probably going to be interesting, is called The Birth of the World by Meister Eckhart. Yeah, but I'm going to start with a kind of overview, or what contemplation as wanting is about. And the paragraph starts with contemplation. I think I might have to adjust my volume setting. It sounds very kind of, maybe this is better. Or this is better. I'm not sure. If I notice some distortion. Maybe I'll have to just talk loud, not so loud. Okay. Paragraph is kind of clipping. How do I do this? How do I do this? Ah. Okay. No, it's ah. Maybe if I turn this off. There's a power thing here going on. Hello, hello. Maybe this is better. Now I can turn my volume. Ah, ah. Ah, now I can hear. Hello? Hello? Hello, 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 hello. Maybe there. Maybe this is the volume. Now it's not clipping, but I'm not sure if it's loud enough. I'll guess I'll find out when if I listen to it. Yeah, I was just titling the paragraph contemplation as one. And this is a book of beholding of contemplation as one. Literally, contemplation derived from the Latin contemplatio, as from con to go within, temp to create time and space, to gaze, ponder, or study within the temple, templum in Latin, or yeah, Latin. Contemplation is to go within, to look at God within the temple of the heart. The Greek term adopted, theoria, from the theorein, again stresses to gaze at something intently. Yeah, I'm not gonna read the reference notes, but it's yeah, I'm not gonna go into that. However, as the Catholic tradition of contemplation unfolds, contemplation loses the sense of looking at God. Reflexively as a subjective objective knowing that we know. And becomes beholding in total awareness of God or oneness with God. Contemplation is beholding until there's only one beholding. Um, there's something about that word of beholding. Beholding. Kind of want to zoom in on that word, beholding. So if I separate be from the holding, there's something that's being held, that's being maybe there's something that's being held and in, or maybe there's something is being held that's being, maybe there's a holding of being and there's only one that's holding the being, and the oneing, or the maybe the oneing is about that there's only one, or the oneing is holding the being, that in order to arrive at oneness, maybe can put it like in order to arrive in oneness, there's only one that can hold the being, and that's the oneing. Mm, not sure if that makes sense at all, but don't think senses. Maybe not. There's another. I think this level of listening and reading is probably not about, maybe not at all, is not not making sense in like the ordinary way we usually make sense. This is another level of sense making. Maybe maybe this is yeah, something. I'm not sure if this makes sense, but what occurred to me was Vervaeke's notion of rationality. It is kind of on this quest of reinterpreting what's the real, so to speak, rationality. And it's not, from my understanding, it's not what we usually refer to if we say rationality is bound up with some like logic way of thinking. Like it's like it's not like if there's a like flawed in quotation, flawed in quotation with quotation marks, there's like the conclusion is that if it's not logical, then it's irrational. And I think what Vereke is trying to say, that on a much deeper level, there's another rationality that's maybe, how to put it, maybe primordial sense of what's rational. That is kind of precedes our usual way of logically arriving at some argument of a proposition. Something like that, maybe. So this is not my current understanding of contemplation is something that precedes logic, like it precedes logic, my ability to make sense in a way that's logical, so I can come to a conclusion that appears. Of course, that's also the problem with something that makes sense on a logical level, because it can appear as it makes sense. And when things appear for us, if we hear an argument or like, yeah, an argument like, yeah, that makes sense. And we can kind of just believe that that's, yeah, we can take that for granted, that if things make logical sense, then we can kind of pound ourselves on the chest and say, yeah, that's of course, like if that appears to make sense. And there's something about there are, if things is represented or presented as an argument logically, it's very easy to conclude that and there's a art, like the left hemisphere way of like grabbing hold to the certainty of logical level thinking. Um, and then from there on, it's easy um, to start bullshitting. And I noticed like it's easy, like feel like I'm on the midst of it right now when I see politics showing up in that further thinking, politics, arguments that appears to be make sense. And maybe that's not always helpful when you go about in the world and trying to discover novelty or expand our awareness and whatever we're into. But yeah, I think I'm gonna leave my argument thing or my thinking and go back to the book. Let's see, where was I? Yeah, there's contemplating is beholding until there's only one beholding. In contemplation, we are absorbed within the loving of divine contemplation, with love's wanting. All that we will explore about contemplation as wanting is held in the celebrated wanting prayer of Jesus that resounds from the luminous pages of John's Gospel. Jesus, who identifies himself as the Word spoken from the silence of divine contemplation, utters this haunting prayer shortly before the way he walks the way of the cross. He prays from the depth of his heart. Quotation, Father, may they be one. Quotation. Jesus longs for us to live in the oneness of contemplation. His words are infused with unbounded presence. Unbounded presence. Like, his words are infused with unbounded presence. It makes me think of unbounded presence as it makes me think of grace because of the unboundedness. There's some connection to that for me. As okay, his words are infused with unbounded presence as they create a wanting field from the intimacy of Jesus being one with the source of his being, that he calls his Father. I think I'm gonna read this once more. His words are infused with unbounded presence as they create a field of wanting from the intimacy. It's a long sentence. I have to divide it up. His words are infused with unbounded presence as they create a field of wanting. I'm gonna pause before it continues. His fields are infused with unbounded presence. So there's not the unbounded presence is like if there's not like a constraint of the presence or not, if there's not something that's in the way of presence, thereby being unbounded, it's not like I'm gonna give you just a little presence. Like it's not bound by anything. It's not like it's not. It's just shared presence. Like it's pure. Maybe it's not. It's not like holding back presence. It's unbounded. Yeah. And like and in that unboundedness, it's created a field of wanting. And the field of wanting is from the, continuing in the sentence, from the intimacy of Jesus being one with the source of his being that he calls his Father. So there's a true line that from his Father, that's the source of Jesus being, creates that an intimacy, or in that intimacy of the source of his Father, that creates a field. Yeah, now it's starting to. So let's see if I can grasp or make that a little more clear. In that source of Jesus being that he calls his Father, that kind of intimacy between, in the relationship to his Father, there's an intimacy in that relationship that creates that field that is infused, or that gets infused by this unbounded presence. This is not going to continue much longer, but I'm going to maybe take one more sentence. And this is, my English is failing me. Reciprocally, I think that's the word actually. Reciprocally, this eternal creative silence, who speaks the word or consciousness of the Father, as in Jesus. They're so dense with the meaning. It's hard to, like, so dense. Okay. Reciprocally, this eternal creative silence, who speaks the word, who's maybe the word is Jesus, and there's an eternal, or if this previous sentence of like this, like that feel of wanting, I think that's maybe the center of the sentence. That feel, or for me right now, there's something significant in the field that's like that is created by that field of intimacy between Jesus and his Father. Or yeah, there's a field that's being created, and reciprocally, this eternal creative silence who speak the word, who's like there's something about that field that is like it can be the create, or there's a eternal creative silence in that field, I imagine. and that speaks of the word, or that speaks of Jesus, or the consciousness and the consciousness of the Father as in Jesus. There's okay, I'm gonna try to clarify this. If I manage to do that, then I will try at least. That's all I can do. I'm gonna try to say this, to take these two sentences and try to synthesize these two sentences. Okay. In the relationship of Jesus and the source of his being that he calls his Father, there's a they or that those two things is uh, is creating a wanting field in the intimacy of that relationship, and that field of intimacy creates a eternally creative silence, that speaking from that silence is speaking the word, or consciousness of the Father, or it's the same thing. I think the consciousness is of the Father is speaking the word from, or is internally speaking the creative silence. That's the word, as in Jesus. That's the word. Like, um, uh, so okay, one more sentence. That's, I'm not gonna try to do anything more with that. Like, I'm not sure if, like, I'm not completely satisfied with my synthesis, but that's gonna be, I'm gonna leave it there, and I'm gonna take one more sentence that might be helpful. As Jesus continues to pray, quotation, just as you are in me and I am in you, we see that oneness, is not a static condition. Yeah, that makes sense. So because of the reciproc, oh my God, that's a word that came to me so easily. Reciprocally. No, that's not the word. Reciprocally. Reciprocally. This eternal creative silence. And eternal creative, that's definitely not a static condition. Okay. I think I'm gonna take a nap or something, because this was not, this was quite but it's enlivening, and it's can notice a lot in this interesting interesting, yes. So if you endure this listening, if you listened and endure this reading and listening, yeah, That's awesome if you actually followed or listened. To be continued.